So let me give you some of the historical background, and then I have a little bit of extra stuff that I've learned about Pete Towne. That there's a book about him that's out, and I picked up a lot of information out of that. There's only one copy of it that I can find. It's in believe it or not, South City. But oh well. The branch was originally lumber and cattle, and that we know is about 1857-58. In 1873, a guy by the name of Haskins increased the dairy, but he had a shingle mill. This was not a place you wanted to work. 2 people died making shingles there. So this was not a safe occupation, and there was no OSHA then, of course. The George family moved in, and there is a road, by the way, that runs from, it's been blocked off now, but it goes down, there's a water tank down the hill down here. That, we called that the George Road. That was the only way in and out of this place in the wintertime. Because the county didn't maintain the road. They didn't, it was a fire trail, dedicated fire trail. They didn't need to keep it in the wintertime. So we had to come up through there, and when they put the tank in, they improved the road a little bit. But we used to come up and turn right at the bottom of the hill here and come up this back way. That's the only way you could get in and out in the wintertime. So they also had the dairy. The dairy and the original house, by the way, were way over on the other side of the ranch. You may have seen it. That's down in the bottom of the valley. I have a book of pictures that's my family history here, and I've got a picture of my 4 kids and my wife and I down there at the White House. So if you haven't seen it, it's in here. I've got pictures of Pete in here, and I will put it on the table over there with your other log. Just leave it for people to look at.
So the White House, that wasn't as far as where we ride on the Tarwater ride,
Yes.
is it? That's that little house there on the where we stop for lunch?
Yeah, there used to be a wonderful apple orchard there. There used to be an apple orchard
There's
right
still
here.
a few trees there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This apple orchard died out, but these were great apples, but unfortunately we had to share them with the deer. And they got a little feisty sometimes. A couple of the other people tried to make a go of it around 1900. They went belly up financially. So Pete's dad and his grandfather, Mr. Bartley, this was known, by the way, as the Bartley Ranch and the Haskin Hill Ranch. And for a while it was also known as the Haskin Hill Hereford Ranch. When Pete was here, he preferred Herefords. When I started running cattle here, we had Durham Hereford crosses, because I liked the way they milked better than the straight Herefords did. The calves were huge. But that continued along until from 1902 to 1941, when Pete Kendall Bartley Towne, a.k.a. Pete, became the owner. And at that point, this was 956 acres. It got a little bigger, and that's when until the county finally bought it. When I first came here, you are all sitting inside the house that was here. It was a gigantic, big white house. And this thing was built just because Pete and his wife, his second wife, needed a place to live, so this was their house. But they had a lot of deer hunting up here, and some guys came up in 1946-ish, and there was no place to keep their beer cooled. So they went in the back porch, which was about there, and plugged in a refrigerator that was broken. So it burned the house down. And it was apparently a pretty good fire. So there isn't anything here the orchard's gone. There's a little low spot over there by the gate that I noticed when I walked in. That used to be a gigantic hole in the ground. It was, we had a fence around it because if the kids ever fell in, they came out in China. I mean, it was a long, deep hole. And I could still see a little low spot over there where that was, and that's weird. Anyway, the house, like I said, burned down in 46. The transition, Pete was ready to retire, and so he welcomed it. The county made him one of their classic officers. They give him 50% on the dollar of the value of the place, or they take it over from them in a domain, and he decided maybe he'd take the money. A little bit about Pete. He was an environmentalist when nobody knew what that meant. So on this hill up here, they put in a whole bunch of clovers to see if they could work it and make it work here. And they were, I love the names of Wiginellop and Yarlope. I can't remember my birthday, but I can remember the names of those clovers. What does that mean? Any psychologist here that can help me with that? But it didn't work. But one time, Pete found a bunch of trash out by the road. Someone had come through with the gate open and dumped the trash. There's a survey marker out there. If you want to take a look at it, it's there. It's between two big round hills. And it was right near the survey marker. And the only reason I bring it up is I love the name of the survey marker. If you want to look at it, in brass, it's called Carol Doda. It's still there.
What year was that put in?
20s? Yeah. Oh, sorry, 40s.
40s.
Okay. She was just
Carol was a young
she was just getting started. She was starting to blossom, I guess. Anyway, Pete took the trash, and took it to the address in San Francisco that he got from the trash, and returned it to their front lawn. I like that.
That's a good one.
Pete, if you rode anywhere today, your chances of walking or having your horse step on Pete are pretty high. Because when he died, he got a whole bunch of friends and said, when I die and I'm cremated, I want you and you and you and you and you and you to put some of me in your pocket and go for a walk in the ranch and lose my ashes. So he's all over the place. I don't know if he had any inlays or not, but the rest of it's still there. He was also on the board of directors, by the way, of the Cow Palace. And one of the interesting things about coming up here is you never knew who would be here. And the governor came here, and a lot of people who were associated with the Cow Palace would come down. He would invite them down. So, very, very nice guy. He was a car dealer, Town Ford, and my folks got a new car one Christmas. Do you know any car dealer today who would deliver a car to a family on Christmas Day and say thank you very much and walk away? He did. The only problem with that was my sister thought we had lost the other car because we couldn't afford it and was telling people we were broke. But other than that, it was a good day. The cattle, like I said, we had Herefords and Durham Herefords. We had a bull whose name was Scotty. Scotty, my nose was about at his shoulders. This was a giant bull. And at that point, I had a son, Peter, who was that big. We were up here doing something, and we couldn't find him. No Peter. Walked out there in front of the barn. Peter squatted down under Scotty, scratching his belly. Now, parents, can you imagine seeing your kid 50 feet away with the most dangerous bull in the county, and the bull's going... So that's sort of our part of this. I worked here for 9 years. Like I say, I came here in the early 40s, and it's a real special place for me, and my kids had lots of opportunities that normal kids didn't have. We were talking about it before. Up here on the hill, my two oldest and I were watching a mother bobcat teach her kittens how to catch gophers. Kids don't have that kind of experience. It never will. But that's too bad, because that was special. That's all the highlight stuff that I can think of.
What about Sam McDonald?
What?
Brick.
Yeah, the brick stuff.
The brick.
Right behind you.
Oh,
I remember that.
thank you. This set of brick back here
Dance floor.
is a dance floor. Pete's second wife, Udell, was a dancer. And she said, I'll go up there to that dirty ranch place if you build me a dance floor. Now, I think we put that in there in 61-ish. We put it on dirt. We didn't put sand in there. There's no cement in there.
And look how flat.
That's like a billiard top.
Yeah, very nice.
So that's the only thing that's of the carry-on stuff that's here. The buzzards are not happy because there isn't a lot of carry-on, I know. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Other questions?
What about Sam McDonald?
Can you describe or explain how it became part of the park?
said that.
It was, Sam McDonald Park was established by the head groundskeeper for Stanford University. It was his summer home. And then when it became a county park, this was still Pete's. And what's his name? The house is named after him. Jack Brooks decided he wanted to incorporate this into either Sam McDonald or Memorial. And so that was when the transition took happen. And we've been trying to figure out when that happened, and we can't pin it down. But it's got to be 35 or 40 years, but I can't answer that. And what was your question?
Oh, I was going to say, is it true that when Towne donated the park, that he donated for horse people, or is that just something that the horse people fought for?
Well, he was a horseman. He was a horse breeder as a hobby.
Yeah. But did he specify that this was
But
to
I
be a
don't
horse
think he
camp?
specified it for horses. He was basically run out of town on a rail because they wanted it and they weren't being nice to him about it.
Bob?
Yes.
I was told that Sam McDonald donated almost 700 acres to the park. He did not ask
That was
for
in.
money.
I believe that was in his estate.
Yes.
Yes.
So, and he was a black guy.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yep.
And so a lot of our beautiful trails over there are all Sam's property.
Right. Right.
Why did they name it Jack Brook?
Why did they name it? Because he was a moving person to get it to become part of the park.
Okay.
It was his idea.
He was superintendent.
Yeah.
And you know how cool Jack Brook was? If you wanted to ride in a park that didn't allow horses, you'd phone Jack Brook and he'd say, some horse people are going to be riding through the park.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy he was.
So he's pro-horse.
Bob?
Yes.
He was right next door where I board my horses.
So talking about Sam McDonald and stuff, and I like Sam McDonald too, and they got a little stand out there, and they have brochures telling the history about him and how the park came and stuff. How come we don't have that at this park, or is there?
You mean honoring Pete?
Yeah, or some
Part
of
of
the
the history you just gave us. Yeah.
like some of the history about that. And
I don't know. I've had people who heard about this. This is just, well, the essence of it is that 2 pages. And I've had people contact me for information. The lady who wrote the book about him had a really hard time finding out anything about him. And it's a fascinating book.
They had a picture of Sam McDonald on the ranger station down below, so when it was open all the time, big picture of Sam and all the stuff, but that's closed now.
I heard that. Yeah.
is that right? But do they still put out the brochure?
Yeah, we just got one.
Yeah.
I thought Pete Towne and Jack Brook were very good friends, and Jack Brook kept his horses up here. And
No,
so-
he just came up here in the summer.
Yeah, I don't think he kept his horses here.
No, he didn't. He stayed in that cabin for weekends.
Okay, well, I thought they used to have corrals there.
Oh yeah,
to help
this
tear 'em
this
down.
area out here was one.
Yeah,
This was
we
the
did too.
this was the roping and riding corral out here. The chutes were over there on the other side of the barn.
Right, I helped tear them down.
Yeah, that was,
Okay. Well, Jack Brook was director of parks. He had the same job that Marlene now has. And that was at the time, I don't know all the history, but at the time the horse camp was established, Jack was the director. And he was active in the planning and so on. And unfortunately, he passed away before the camp actually got completed. And I wasn't involved in the management at all at that time. I was just a worker. But that's why the camp got named for Jack Brook, because he was instrumental in getting it established. Okay?